Ferry, my goal is for you to get on this channel and be smarter than you were before you arrived. I guess you could say you're not going to be dumber if you come here. Like me, I got to see the candy first, then I get in the van. I'm not stupid. I have been scouring and looking and running around and trying to find the best sharpener for single bevels that's really useful and easy. This one happens to be a knife sharpener. It's the Worksharp Precision Adjust and Precision Adjust Elite. I've been playing with this thing for 6 months, bought this one myself. It is awesome for sharpening single bevel broadheads no matter what platform you choose. There's a ton of detail here. It's a very long video. I was not trying to drag it out. I'm not trying to make you stay on here. If you follow the steps, you will come out with razor sharp broadheads that will be more lethal. I promise. Here we go. Okay, I bought this myself. Worksharp did not send it to me, and I bought it about 6 or 8 months ago before I started talking to them about possibly working with them on a sharpening deal, and we got that done. So when you get one of these, you can get the Precision Adjust or the Precision Adjust Elite. This is the Precision Adjust Elite model, which it's a little higher price point and has a strop in it. But the Precision Adjust is the same basic deal. You have multiple sharpening in the Precision Adjust Elite. You have 2 different stone sets and a strop. I recommend you go on the Worksharp site and look it up and see the parts and pieces. I am not going to go into that detail because I want to show you how to sharpen broadheads on this thing. And there's this deal called the internet that they say will be around for a while. And you can go to the Worksharp website and look at all the options. So, unbuckle this here gizmo. Take your tray of sharpening sticks out, and you have multiple pieces here. This is the base. Okay. I'm going to set it right there. This is, everybody's going to say it's like a Lansky. Well, it's like a Lansky or one of the others, except you can adjust this tower up and down. And you can see I have some marks on here already, right there and right there, for my knife actually. But I'm going to show you how to sharpen a single bevel broadhead using this tool because it's spectacular, because you can adjust it up and down. So you have the main bevel, this particular unit, on the Precision Adjust. On this, shows it to be about 28 degrees, which it is. Ideally, the back side of the broadhead should be flat, but that would require grinding off all of the Cerakote and everything, so most people sharpen it at somewhat of a little bit of an angle. What the Precision Adjust allows you to do is to set your main bevel height, and then you can actually turn this knob and run it down and get the backside as flat as possible. But the key here is you need to be consistent. So you can sit around and argue and say, oh man, it's got to be flat on the back. But if it's flat and it's wavy on the other side because your hand sharpened it or something and your angle is constantly changing, it will not be as sharp as it will if you just have it a little bit tilted on the flat side, but it is consistently consistent. And you can roll a burr, such as this picture right here. This thing hits nails every single time, and that's why I called him and said, hey, I love your product and would love to promote it. Here we are. Back to our gizmo. This clamp right here is what you put your broadhead in. And it's got a wheel on here that tightens it up, and I will do that here in just a second, but it's got a magnet on it, and it just sucks right in like that. I'm going to put my camera on a tripod because it's going to be easier because I need to use both hands and not just one. Okay, we got our broadhead here. This happens to be the Ranch Fairy 200 grain, as I said before. And you grab the clamp, pull it away. There's just magnets in there. Put it in the clamp. Jaws open up. I tightened it up earlier. Be all right. Opens up like that. And I've played with this thing a lot. And for consistency's sake, you're better off just smashing it against the ferrule of the broadhead. Now this might be on any single bevel broadhead you want to sharpen. Grab it about like that, okay? And that sets it, makes it consistent. At least it's on the ferrule. I realize that when you sharpen, you're sharpening kind of, the blade on a lot of these gizmos, ideally the blade edge would be out here, so that it's perfectly straight when you're sharpening with the stones. I have found it to wobble around and not catch, and then it loses the angle and becomes a little inconsistent. And once again, we want consistency, okay? So when you have to sharpen any broadhead and you put it in this configuration, you want the clamp a little bit back this direction. If it's too far out on the point, out here, you're gonna hit the clamp, so don't do that. So put it back this direction, okay? And get a good bite on it. Like I said, it's just a short piece of steel. You can try to do it this way if you want, but I found it to be a little bit frustrating when you're sawing along with the tools and then it wiggles a little bit. It's not a failure of Worksharp. They're built a knife sharpener, but this is an incredible tool for sharpening single bevel broadheads. So what's gonna happen is, back here, it's going to sharpen a little different than the front. You're basically going to a little bit reset the bevel because of the approach angle of the tools. It'll reset the bevel a little bit when you have to sharpen, and that is fine because you're setting the bevel consistent, okay? Take it, put it in there, and it's done. There is a button on the back that you push, okay? Push it in the back, clicks forward, and you roll it over. Okay, push the button, roll it back. Once again, you can do knives on this thing, you can do kitchen knives on this thing, you can do double bevel broadheads. When you do double bevel broadheads on this tool, you don't have to change this angle. I was playing with it yesterday, and the tough head Ranch Fairy single bevel is about 28 degrees. So I was playing with it yesterday, and when I put this arrow, you see it's a little bit below 30, on that mark right there, it hit plumb. On the bevel side, on that side. The trick here with the single bevels is when you go to the flat side, as they say, right? You run it down. And you do it every time. This is where the thing has become, it's really cool. And I'm going to change the camera angle again, but right about here, which is what, 17, 18 degrees. When I roll it down to about here, it's the point where the tool will come in this direction, not hit the ferrule, but still get on the blade. Again, I realize we're steepening up the total bevel angle of this broadhead, but the consistency is unrivaled, and that's what it takes to get sharp. I'm telling you, 99% of people do not sharpen single bevels flat. They're either sharpening off the ferrule, running it flat on a stone, or the jig they've got, they just flip it over and deal with it. That is fine. Consistency wins, okay? Consistency wins. All right, a little bit about the bevel. I talked about the fact that we're going to come off of it and not be perfectly flat on the flat side. And that is called an asymmetrical or a back bevel. Now, in the archery business, there's no discussion of why and how you get a tough and sharp edge. So what we're putting on the single bevel broadhead is a very consistent, what is known as a back bevel or an asymmetrical bevel. You are welcome to go on this thing called the internet and explore that. And you're going to find that in knife forums, you're going to find that in sharpening forums, and you're going to find it in tactical knife discussions where they admit that it's not the most keen edge on earth, but it tends to resist chipping, chatter, and is durable through whatever material the blade has to go through. Completely undiscussed in the archery business is blade toughness and durability and its ability to penetrate the initial contact with the thorax and whatever's under there, remain sharp, and travel through the cardiovascular system razor sharp as it was when it left the quiver. I've said this on 1,000 videos. Broadhead blades do one thing. They stay in static state, meaning they remain sharp and keep going, or they dull and erode. So that's why you use this tool to make sure the edge is as consistent across the length of the blade as humanly possible. That's why I love this thing. You put that little asymmetrical edge on there. I get that. One side's steeper than the other. Okay, that's fine. For durability, lack of chipping, and long-term sharpness through whatever material it hits. And when you're flying a stick at an animal, you need it to remain sharp through the full penetration cycle, chest wall to chest wall, and everything in between. Okay, once again, you're going to want to play whatever broadhead you've got. You're going to want to figure out this mark. You could even mark it. Like I said, I've marked this right here. That's my angle of my everyday carry knife, and I just run it to that. And it's a double bevel knife. Okay, so I put a mark right there. That's where I sharpen my everyday carry. And then you just, if it's double bevel, you just flip it back and forth and leave it there, okay? This is not a double bevel, this is a single bevel tool. So we have to sharpen different angles for each bevel. The cool thing about this is this gizmo. Everybody's seen kind of a Lansky system, but these rotate. So I modified this. You can actually take these apart and buy different stones, and these actually are stuck on with adhesive, and they peel off, and I've actually peeled them off and put them back on to make sure that that would work, because I don't do unboxing videos where I haven't used it. You can see that the stones have been used. That's the ceramic, and it's, you know, it's got tons of dirt and stuff on it, because I've actually tried to use this thing. I didn't just unbox it and say, oh, I think it'll work pretty good. Those videos drive me nuts. So what I did actually was I modified the Precision Adjust Elite. Has more stones. This is a matching stone to the Precision Adjust. It has a 320, a 600, and ceramic. If you buy the Elite, there's more stones and, you know, up into the thousands. So if you want to spend more money and get the Elite, fine. The Elite has a strop. That is awesome. You can get a ranch fairy strop behind getting the Precision Adjust. Just depends on which one you want to buy, okay? So you take that, put it in here, magnet, and it sits just like that. It sits just like that on the broadhead, and you're able to sharpen just like that. Sawing, I've found sawing has worked just as good as doing it just like this. That's your preference, whatever you want to do, but I've had just as good luck doing this as anything, okay? Whatever broadhead you have in your hands, the first trick is for y'all to find out the bevel angle of the broadhead you have. If it's above 32-degree angle, there's some single bevels out there with a 40-degree bevel. You're going to want to, you can't use this tool. Right, one thing about the bevel angles, if it's above about 30 degrees, 32, you're probably not going to be able to use this tool. To be real honest, the higher bevel angles, there's a few single bevel broadheads that have 40, high 30s bevel angles on the main bevel for single bevels, and they act like that's a good thing, and it makes a very steep angle, and it's kind of hard to sharpen. So this tool will not work for that, but there's only 2 or 3 of those out there. The majority of the adult broadheads have a bevel angle in the 27 to 30 degree range. That seems to be the most durable edge. It doesn't tend to chatter and it holds up to impact. So that's where most people have landed, And so this thing is spectacular. So we're going to go back to the tool. I'm going to show you how to figure out the best angle. Obviously the tool was not made by the manufacturers of the broadheads. So they have a bevel, indicator on here. I have no doubt it's accurate to them. But since they didn't work with the companies, don't get frustrated if your broadhead company says it's a 28 and on here it's 27.5 or 29. Just worry about consistency and a nice clean cut across the bevel, and then mark the tool or use the lines on the side, okay, to tell you where to go up and down on a single bevel broadhead. Don't get wrapped around the axles that they didn't call every broadhead company on the earth and put a mark on there for each individual broadhead you might own. Here we go. I'm gonna take a Sharpie, whatever broadhead you've got, we're gonna paint the edge black. This is the bevel side. Totally black. That's gonna allow us to see our work and when we hit square. Take my sharpening tool. Okay. Let's set it on there. It's obviously hitting the ferrule, but more importantly, you see that space right there? You're not on the bevel. So you would wind it up and I know that that's good right there. And you check your tool. You got to check it by hitting it with the stone just a little bit and see what the Sharpie does. So we're going to change about the angle of the camera and show that. I'm going to set it on the 320 on the roughest part. It's upside down, but nonetheless you can see. Because I want to get pretty quick results and see that it's pretty darn square. I didn't mention one thing. These little rubber stoppers on here, you set those so you don't run off the broadhead. So you can actually move these back and forth. Okay, they slide up and down the shaft here, and that way you can set it so that you hit and you stop and the stone stays on the broadhead and it stops on the bottom. And then it just keeps you from, you'll figure out how long it is, but it helps you in the beginning. It just goes clunk clunk. So start sharpening. And I just saw it. And I've done this, and I've sawed it, and the sharpness has come back the same every time. All right, we can see that it's getting on both sides of the Sharpie. But once again, I talked about this. It tends to work more plumb on this side, and I'm recutting the bevel to this tool, and the front side is going to take a little bit of work. And that's because the blade is angled that direction, and ideally it would be straight. I showed that earlier. But this, clamping it against the ferrule, really, really makes it consistent. You see these two marks right here? See right there, those shiny spots? I got too low on one of the broadheads, and I was able to actually hit this. And if you do that, you need to raise the bevel up, raise the tower a little bit and get off of that, obviously. You can grind it off if you want, but not recommended, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and grind away here until we get this thing all cleaned up. Okay, a couple of mistakes to avoid, or not really mistakes, it's just you want to fine tune the edge. So if you start off with whatever brand broadhead you get and you're trying to figure out where to set the tool, and you see this, it's primarily working low down here, and you can grind through if you want to, but you want to just bump it a little. So I would re-Sharpie this thing, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's too low before we do that. But if you see that, I would re-Sharpie it and just adjust this. I mean a tiny bit. In that case, you want to go down and a little bit more tilted down to get more the whole bevel sharp. If it's too high is what I call it, which means it would be towards the ferrule. I've got it too low, too high, however you want to see it. High is going to be the mark. The tool is set too low, okay? This is real clear. You can see that it's only sharpening right there on top of the Sharpie. And you would have to grind for days. There's no Sharpie taken off the bottom, but it's all taken off the top there. So you want to take the bevel, you want to raise the tower, okay? Raise the tower up and get it to where it's hitting more plumb on the blade. You have to take that spot off that you just had the high spot. But you can see here that is pretty even, okay? Some of this is just manufacturing and the blade's a little rounded, okay? It's okay. It's on the bottom and it's on the top. So this is probably the right angle to set, and then you just grind through. It wouldn't take long at all, maybe another 30 seconds, and this whole edge will be flat, flat, flat. Again, very consistent angle, not wavy like this on the hand sharpening. Okay, so it's on the top and the bottom, and we'll just cut through this middle part. You'll see that here in just a second. Okay, that took about 45 seconds and I've got it. All the Sharpie's gone and it's sexy looking, shining, okay? You're gonna do the same trick on the other side. You're gonna flip it, okay? You're gonna pick it up, obviously. That's way too steep. See all this airspace back here where my finger is? You want it as low as you can get, but not hit the ferrule. You want to do this on the back of the broadhead, so you want to do it back here. Up here, the ferrule's real low. If you set it up, if you set it in here, it's going to hit back there. It's going to ride off the edge and never touch it. So you want to set this back on the back, put it up against something. Hang on, got to change the angle so you can see. You can see all that space in there. Right there, you can see my finger back there, and then it goes clear. So we lower it. I mean, there's a tiny bit of space. Like I said, it's very difficult to catch on the camera. Let me give it one stroke. Okay, I was wrong. That is not what you want. So we're gonna go up, I mean, just a little bit up. And we're on the edge, but we're not hitting the ferrule. You're really not gonna saw very hard. Again, this is the 320 stone. And you're just gonna hit it a little bit. And you can go around the point on the Tonto over here. The Tonto tip is right here, and you can just kind of go and you ride around the corner and tilt it a little bit and buff off that Tonto tip. Again, I've said this about 3 times. One of the advantages of this tool is once you get it set and you get those marks done and you figure out where to put it on this tower, they're gonna be set to this tool forever. And the next time you sharpen it, it'll be super, super fast. Run this side a little more. And see how we have a little wire edge on there? Not much. You don't want to put a bevel on it. This is where I hit the ferrule earlier. And there you go. You can see the burr right there. It's the full length of the whole broadhead. That's the burr right there. It goes all the way out to the tip. I can feel it here. It's a little thinner out here, but right there you can see that burr. That is awesome. So what I do now that the burr is established is I go from 320 and I go to 600. And I start sawing a little bit. Now, I almost made a mistake. So now you run the tower up. And right on that mark is where that's where I did this particular broadhead. Like I said, if you got a different brand of broadhead, you need to figure out what the perfect angle is for it. But we want to knock that burr off. And I'm only using medium pressure here. So the 320, I was pushing pretty hard. You just wanted the heavy stones. You're just trying to get that bevel cut and get it consistent. Now you start doing, so I'm just going to use moderate pressure. You can hear the stones a 600, not a 320, so it isn't so raspy sounding, okay? This side, you don't really need to go around the Tonto tip because you're gonna sharpen all the way out. You can see it got smoother and slicker and more, and even more shiny. And then down we go. To our previous setting. Flip it over. Still on 600. And we're just going to buff this off again. Go around the point on this side on the Tonto tip, like that. And it just, when you get one of these, you'll feel how smooth it feels when you change the stones. Flip it back. Once again, we have, it's the wire edge. I mean, the burr is getting so small it's hard to see. You can see it right there. See the burr? Once that comes off, it's going to get nasty. Okay, I'm going to wipe the broadhead off because it's got a bunch of goo on it. I'm going to give it one, this is 600 grit. I'm going to run the tower back up. Okay, to my previous mark. And I'm going to do, this is where I'm going to go one direction. I'm going to just take the burr off. So I'm lifting the stone up and I'm going to take the burr off. Nice thing about this is you can lay it like that. That's real good. I haven't hit it with a ceramic yet. So now we're going to rotate the tool. With the ceramic, I probably ought to clean that. I use glass cleaner. Just kind of soak it pretty good. Pull it out. It's much cleaner than it was, and that'll help. So all the steel's not in there. Put it back in. I already have the tower set to the main bevel. I've got the main bevel tower set to the height for the main bevel. Sawing doesn't matter now. You're really not going to raise a burr. This is just polishing. So I'm using just the pressure of this stone as light as I can, and I'm literally just letting it ride on there and polishing it. The biggest trick I had when I first started doing this was remembering to change the tower every time, and it's real obvious. I used a moderate amount of pressure on the heavier stone just to cut it, just to get it cut. Okay, moved it back down. Go around the point here on this side, on the flat side, get it sharp. And then one last time. On the bevel side. Okay, got the Tonto tip taken care of. Tonto on that side's taken care of. The important part is the Tonto tip can be a pretty sharp, but this from here back needs to be razor sharp. Lay the tower down, grab a piece of paper. That is really good. I mean, I'm hanging onto the side of the paper. I'm not even really forcing it on there. And that is nasty. So that's how you do this with the Precision Adjust Elite or the Precision Adjust. All right, that's how you do that. It's been a long time coming before I found something. I've been on in the YouTube bow hunting space for 6 years. I've fiddled around with every tool out there that I could find. and I kept buying things and they just weren't right, or they were a little bit cumbersome, or they were kind of cheap and inexpensive, or they were set up for one particular broadhead, and it didn't give you the opportunity to. I sharpened the Ranch Fairy broadhead on here. I get that. I did the Big Mama on there, and it did great. There's no problem at all. And sharpened a bunch of other stuff on there before I decided to contact these folks and try to get, a deal with them, because I believe in the product. So no unboxing or randomness. You haven't seen 15 different sharpening tools on here. There's been some stones and things, but it's been a challenge to find a tool that will sharpen these broadheads, get them razor sharp, and then once you set the tower and you reset the bevel to this tower, I'm probably going to put dots on this side just so I don't forget. Getting old, early onset Alzheimer's, but it's truly fantastic. And then on top of that, go to the Worksharp YouTube channel and to their website, because this is a knife sharpener. So it's got that dual benefit of you having a killer knife sharpener for your everyday carries, for your kitchen knives, for your hunting knives, whatever. I even resharpened replaceable blades for one of my replaceable blade knives on here, and it was awesome. It was super fantastic. Now the blade wasn't terribly beat up and it was nothing to get it back, but I just did it for kicks, and it really, really worked well. So that's the review of this. They're available all over the world and they're everywhere. They're in every major retailer. They're on the internet. So just buy them wherever. Go to the website and buy one. Whatever you want to do, that's fine. But widely available, super easy, and it'll sharpen any single bevel broadhead platform and your double bevels. The double bevel broadheads, the same procedure, but you just don't change the tower up and down. You just leave it set, you sharpen your edge, set the bevel, get it plumb, and then go through the same thing. You'll probably see that in the future when I sharpen double bevels on it. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you want. If you don't, it's free country. I don't care, but I hope you learned something, because the whole goal of the Ranch Fairy channel is to help you become better and more lethal in the woods. See ya.